Why did Satan fight so hard for Moses' body after his death? This is an intriguing question that sparks curiosity and reflection. It's well established that Moses was deeply loved by the nation of Israel, especially at the end of his leadership and life. He was one of the greatest leaders in biblical history, someone who walked closely with God, received the Ten Commandments, and led the people of Israel on their journey of liberation from slavery in Egypt to the doorstep of the Promised Land. However, like great leaders before and after him, the time came when God needed to call his beloved prophet home. The impact of his departure was so profound that it took a whole month for the people to mourn his loss. Moses wasn't just a leader. He was a symbol of hope, faith, and obedience to God. His death, for many, seemed like the end of an era, the conclusion of his earthly contributions and sacrifices. However, Moses' death marked the beginning of another journey, not just for him, but also for the people of Israel. With the death of a great leader comes something more, the symbolism of the importance of his life and legacy. Normally, death is followed by burial, a moment of farewell that also reinforces the memory of the deceased. This should have been the case for Moses, but his death and burial were surrounded by mysteries. Why? What was different about Moses' death that drew so much attention to the point that Satan desired to possess his body? The answer lies in Deuteronomy 34:6, which states, "So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, but to this day no one knows where his tomb is." This verse reveals something extraordinary. Moses is the only person in the Bible whose burial was performed by God himself. Furthermore, the Lord hid the location of his tomb. But why would God hide Moses' body? This divine action wasn't random. God knew that the people of Israel, so inclined to idolatry, could turn Moses' tomb into a place of worship, diverting their focus from the true worship of God. Moses, in his life, always pointed to God, never to himself. Even in death, the Lord ensured that his memory was honored without becoming an object of veneration or idolatry. Furthermore, the battle for Moses' body between the archangel Michael and Satan, mentioned in Jude 1:9, highlights the spiritual significance of this event. Satan, as God's adversary, likely wanted to use Moses' body to deceive the people or discredit the divine plan. But the Lord, in his sovereignty, ensured that this didn't happen. This account reminds us of God's holiness and his wisdom in protecting his people, even in times of mystery and doubt. Moses continues to be an example of faith and obedience, not only in his life, but even in his death. His story challenges us to trust in God, even when we don't fully understand his purposes. The answer is that Satan was deeply interested in Moses' body. He wanted to use it, as he does with everything he touches, to lead people away from God, leading them into idolatry. If the location of Moses' tomb and body were known to the Israelites, they certainly would have turned the place into a sanctuary of worship. Monuments would have been erected in honor of Moses, and the site would have become a point of pilgrimage. Even today, millions could travel to this supposed location, seeking some kind of power or spiritual blessing instead of directing their faith to the true God. This tendency toward idolatry was not uncommon among the people of Israel. Repeatedly, throughout biblical history, we see how the Israelites were tempted to worship physical objects or charismatic leaders, diverting their focus from the Lord. If Moses' tomb had been revealed, it likely would have become not only a sanctuary, but also a commercial center. People from all over the world could have used the site for profit, exploiting the faith of others and turning it into a spiritual marketplace. The attention and devotion of the people would have been redirected to Moses, instead of being directed to the God he so faithfully served. This, by definition, is idolatry, placing the focus on the created instead of the Creator. For this reason, the Lord hid Moses' tomb. This divine decision was so significant that it triggered a spiritual conflict in the heavenly realm. In Jude 9, we learn that the archangel Michael challenged Satan over Moses' body. This leads us to another intriguing question. Why were Michael and Satan fighting over Moses' body? The Bible doesn't provide a direct explanation, but there are theories consistent with God's character and the nature of human beings. The most likely theory is that Satan wanted to use Moses' body as an instrument to turn people away from God. As mentioned in Romans 1:25, they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator. This is the heart of idolatry, turning the relative into the absolute and reducing the absolute to something relative. Satan, knowing the influence Moses had over the people, could easily manipulate the situation to foment worship of Moses' physical body, thus diverting the devotion that belonged exclusively to God. God, in his wisdom, took steps to prevent this danger. He not only hid the tomb, but also sent the archangel Michael to protect Moses' body. The battle between Michael and Satan, described in Jude 9, shows the seriousness of this event. But it's interesting to note that even in the face of his adversary, Michael didn't engage in direct accusations against Satan. Instead, he declared, "The Lord rebuke you." This teaches us a powerful lesson about relying on God's authority in our spiritual battles. Additionally, some people suggest that Moses never actually died, but was taken directly to heaven, similar to the prophet Elijah. While this is speculative, we know that Moses appeared with Elijah during Jesus' transfiguration, as recorded in Matthew 17:2-3. This indicates that Moses had a significant role in the divine plan, both in his life and after his death. What we know for sure is that Moses' body was never found. After he ascended the mountain as God had commanded, he disappeared from human sight. This mystery serves as a reminder that God, in his sovereignty, guides every detail for the good of his people. He protected Moses, even in death, to ensure that his people did not fall into the temptation of idolatry. Therefore, what we can learn from this story is that God always acts to protect his plan and his people, even when we don't understand all the details. He calls us to trust in him fully, directing our worship only to the Creator, never to the created. Thus, Moses' legacy continues to live on, not as an object of idolatry, but as an example of faith, obedience, and humility before God. This is a crucial point, and an aspect that makes us reflect deeply on the nature of spiritual warfare. The archangel Michael, the one chosen by God to cast Satan out of heaven, did not dare to speak disrespectfully against the prince of demons, even when in direct confrontation with him. Instead of using harsh words or condemnation, Michael, who has heavenly authority, left all rebuke and condemnation to God. This attitude of not acting on his own, even as a high-ranking celestial being, shows Michael's humility and obedience to God. He, who is described in the Bible as a great warrior, an angel of the highest rank, always acted in alignment with God's command, recognizing that judgment and authority belong exclusively to the Lord. The archangel Michael is described in the Bible, in the books of Daniel, Jude, and Revelation, as the warrior angel, the one who fights against principalities and powers in spiritual battles. The word archangel, which means angel of the highest rank, reveals the importance and power that Michael possesses in the heavenly realm. While most angels in the Bible are portrayed as messengers, conveying God's word or assisting in specific tasks, Michael is represented differently. He is the celestial warrior who stands against the forces of evil, especially against evil spirits and principalities that challenge God's sovereignty. In all his confrontations, Michael does not act impulsively or driven by his own power, but always in obedience to the Lord, who is the source of his strength and authority. And it is precisely this celestial warrior, Michael, who refuses to act on his own when confronting Satan over Moses' body. Instead of initiating a dispute or direct accusation against the devil, Michael simply declares, "The Lord rebuke you." This phrase reveals something profound. Even a celestial being of such high position as Michael recognizes that final authority over evil and its agents belongs to God. Rebuke, condemnation, and judgment are not prerogatives of angels, but are exclusive to the Lord. This example teaches us about God's sovereignty and reminds us of our own position before the Creator. No matter how much spiritual authority we may have, we always depend on His direction and sovereignty. This leads us to reflect on our own attitudes regarding human judgment. It is often easy, when we are harmed or hurt, to seek revenge or desire to rebuke those who do us wrong. However, Michael's example teaches us an important lesson. Instead of taking justice into our own hands, we should let the Lord, who is just, make the final decision. This requires humility, trust in God, and an understanding that divine judgment is always more just and perfect than any act of revenge we may think of carrying out. In summary, the reason why Satan fought for Moses' body is clear. He wanted Moses' body to be found and venerated by the people of Israel. Satan wanted the people to stray from their true worship of God and begin worshiping Moses' body or his remains. Idolatry is one of the greatest spiritual dangers, and Satan knew that this would distort the faith of God's people, diverting them from the Creator to the creation. He wanted Moses to be transformed into an idol, something worshipped instead of God. And why did God send the archangel Michael to protect Moses' body and keep the tomb secret? The reason is clear and profound: to protect his people from idolatry. God, in his wisdom, knew that if Moses' tomb were found and revealed, the people of Israel would be tempted to worship him, forgetting the God whom Moses served faithfully. By keeping the tomb hidden, God prevented the Israelites from falling into the trap of idolatry, protecting them from the error of worshipping the creature instead of the Creator. This also shows God's love for his people, ensuring that they would not stray from the path of true worship, which is exclusive to the Lord and not to any human being or object. This episode also highlights the importance of obedience to God, as exemplified by Michael. Even as one of the most powerful beings in the heavenly realm, he fully submitted to God's authority, recognizing that it is the Lord who has the authority to rebuke and judge. This attitude of humility and obedience is an example for us in our own walk of faith. Thank you for watching. We hope you learned something about the Bible today. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more updates. Keep following our episodes where we discuss crucial questions from the Bible. Thank you